Hello, everybody. I'm Zane Daniel, and I should have asked you how to pronounce your name before we got on here. That was the other thing I was going to ask you, and I didn't. Okay, let me murder it first, and then you can correct it. Right? Okay. Kahreela Anhara.
You did very well. It is Kahreela Anhara. Yes, well done.
Terrific. It's so wonderful to have you. I want to go ahead and introduce everybody to what the heck's going on here because it's been a while. It's been since September of last year that we had a Higher Self Expo. And so it's that time again. We're gearing up for our third event in a year's time. And this is going to be on January 23rd. And it's going to be 10 a.m. Eastern time. But for Europe, it's going to be afternoon and evening. It's going to be all day in here in the U.S. And so it's really a pleasure. Last time I did, I think we had 22 speakers over 2 days. This time we went a little bit lighter, and we've got 11 speakers on one day. And mostly because we really did that, quite quickly. The amount of time between September and January was a little bit shorter than the previous time. So I thought, let's go ahead and do that. And also our theme for the last event is very, very different from this one. So this one is the 0 point of non-judgment. And last time we actually had some really interesting speakers who were not in the spiritual world at all, because it was all about moving from a 3D society to a 5D society. And there were lots of people that were working really hard to try to transform society, but they weren't necessarily following a spiritual path. This time, it's all wonderful spiritual speakers that have either, had some incredible high vibrational experiences. They are healers, or they are almost, like philosophers, right? The way that we should look at life. So I'm super pleased and excited to have you here with us, Kahreela. So I would love it if you could introduce yourself to our audience so they know a lot more about you.
Thank you very much. And thank you for inviting me. I'm really, really excited about the Higher Self Expo. My name is Kahreela Anhara, and I'm from a company called the Starlight Temple, which does courses and ceremonies and in different years, spiritual travel that is about working with the land and the energies of the land. And everything that Starlight Temple does is about using channeled and spiritual tools to become more of yourself, to become more empowered, to live more in alignment, to live more of your destinies and your truth. And Starlight has 4 pillars. And so each of those pillars are kind of the center of my life in a way, and the kind of way I follow my spirituality. And so that's what Starlight is about.
Very good. Okay, and so what is it that you do specifically? What's your claim to fame?
So I'm a channel. I would say that is the main thing that I do with my life and my work is I'm a channel. And I'm lucky enough to be a channel for many, many, many different types of guides. And so everything I do is channeled. I don't do anything that is not channeled. And my guides are very much about ceremony and the importance of ceremony, and making one of the things they say about this ascension process we're living in is that we're moving from a time of living through story into a time of living through ceremony. And so they are very much on a mission to reintegrate ceremony into people's lives.
That's awesome. Okay, and so who are your guides?
Do you know what? I have so many different guides. Like I don't know what I signed up for, really. Yeah, I do. But the way I was taught to channel was always just to ask for the highest level guidance to come through.
Sure.
And so I've always been very surrendered as a channel. And literally, I feel very blessed in having guides from all different dimensions. I get sets for a while and then they flip over, but the kind of main sets I'm working with right now are a combination of star beings, goddesses, a set of guides called the Tribe of the Ka, which are the guardians of the great mystery. They guard all that lies within the great mystery, and a specific lineage that is calling itself the priestess and priesty of the Lumoria Aquaria lineage. They're my main team at the moment, but it does change over the years.
Yeah. And, you know, it's kind of interesting, right? Like people like to know who the guides are. My experience personally has been, it doesn't matter a lot of times, you know, because I've been an Arcturian and I've done an Andromedan, a Hathor, and I mostly work with the Hathors. But still, when it comes time to, I'm receiving information and I ask, who is this? You know, they go, it's not important. What's important is the teachings. What's important is the information. So don't worry about that. And when they've said that to me, I've said, you know, what I think it is, it's our limited three-dimensional minds that like to categorize things and organize things. It makes us feel more comfortable. It makes us feel safe. And that means that it's a fear-based action or a fear-based need to know the identity of the individuals.
I completely agree. And it's that story mentality.
Yeah.
Of needing to know the protagonist, the antagonist, the characters in the story. Whereas actually that, you know, in my experience, most of the time there is more than one guide working through me and more than one tribe. Like most of the time they're working in collaboration anyway. So there's different energies coming, giving different pieces of the puzzle in and stuff like that. And so, yeah.
Yeah. And when it's all said and done, it's just us as source anyway. It doesn't really matter.
Exactly.
So your process, would you say that it's more of a trance channeling or that it's more of a cognitive channeling?
So not trance channeling. I don't do trance. I do direct voice channeling, which is probably halfway between trance channeling and what I call third eye channeling.
Yeah.
And I also do dimensional channeling. And transmission channeling, and again, even and third eye channeling, which is, I would say, every channel does.
Yeah.
And I dance between them. Even when I'm channeling, I will often find myself dancing between them. And so, again, I kind of believe that everything is upgrading, including channeling and the way we channel and things like that. It's becoming a much more fluid and co-creational thing than it used to be, where our vibration was so far away from the beings that we were channeling that that really there was that more of that Piscean separation energy in channeling, and as we're getting closer to Aquaria, everything feels much more kind of fluid and flowful and interchangeable in terms of even the way that you channel, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Makes complete sense. As we raise our vibration, all kinds of different things are going to be happening, are going to be available to us that weren't available to us before. So yeah, it's beautiful. And I have to just throw this out there. When I was first kind of learning all of this, when I was a student in the spiritual world, because I was a video game producer for 40 years of my life, or 22 years of my life, I was following Bashar, the Daryl Anko channels Bashar, and somebody asked him a question saying, well, if you're really channeling a being from another dimensional planet or whatever, then why don't you just come here to Earth and show us, And he said, well, the problem with that is that we're so high vibrational that if we were to land on the planet, you would be looking at us for a moment, and then your consciousness would move into us, and you'd be looking at yourself standing there. And if that wouldn't freak you out, I don't know what would. So I really liked that kind of perspective on how to define what does really high vibrational mean? Oh, right. It's so high vibrational, your consciousness just goes to it. Like you can't even comprehend what's happening. So I thought that was kind of a cool way to look at it.
Definitely. I love that way to look at it. It's amazing. And I really, all of the guides I have ever met have wonderful respect for life and don't really see themselves as my guides often like to say that everybody living right now got the golden ticket. We should all be very, very lucky.
Oh, right. Yes, yes.
That we're getting to do this in form. It's kind of like the other way round for spirit. They're like, you don't know how lucky you are that you're living through this.
Right.
And so I think there is that kind of reverence for us as well, that sometimes in our storied self we forget when we're putting the guides above us in a way, you know.
Oh, right. Yeah. I mean, and I've thought about it too. I was actually channeling one time in front of a group, and I don't normally do that. It was kind of something that I was kind of, I guess, experimenting with. And one of the things that came through, which I thought was really cool, is it was almost like, hey, we're here in the spirit world observing you guys in the third dimension. And you know what we can't do? We can't breathe. You guys get to breathe. Right? So, like, oh my gosh, I never even thought about that. Like, wow, that does feel pretty good. And I can see why they wouldn't be able to breathe. Why would they need to, right? Like, we have to breathe as part of existence here. So that's just one of the many amazing things that we sort of have that they don't. And if they could be jealous, they might be jealous of the fact that we get to and they don't.
Yeah, I mean, they have, like I said, deep reverence for life, deep respect for life. And actually this lifetime where, they say we're so lucky because we're getting to live 2 ages at once. We're getting to live Pisces and Aquaria at once. And that makes this lifetime particularly rare. And it definitely has its challenges.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's why we're here.
Right now isn't feeling its challenges, but on a, they really have expressed to me how many souls wanted to be here at this time because of what it, for a soul, to live 2 ages and 2 values and that kind of extreme level of transition and ascension is just so rare and so amazing, especially to do it in form and in the form of humanity. It's just incredible, really, and so
It's beautiful. All right, well, let's go ahead, and why don't you give everybody an idea of what it is that you're going to be talking about at this particular event?
I am going to be talking about something called shadow work, which is it's one of the things I like to talk about because shadow work has this, the word shadow has this reaction sometimes in people. And I actually think that shadow work is really, really important as part of our ascension process. My guides, shadow is not as scary as it sounds. My guides say that shadow work is working with what you can't see. That is why it is called shadow. And so ultimately it's about working with your deep subconscious. And, human beings are their source, 0 point of non-judgment. They are master creators. Our essence, our humanity is a creational force. And it's a creational force of the human personal and collective realities on Earth. One of the things that we are only just beginning to understand is that we don't just create from our consciousness. We also create from our shadow. And so that creational energy is streaming through our deep subconscious. And in my experience and on my spiritual path, the thing that probably changed other than channeling, the thing that changed my life the most was shadow work, because it was only when I started working with my deep subconscious within the divine conversation that really, really, really I started to understand what manifesting and co-creating at this time is actually about. And so And I believe that every single human being on this earth right now is being shown the human collective shadow. And that when the shadow is showing itself, it shows itself in the map of your life. So everything you do not want that is going on in the map of your life from a shadow work perspective is there because the deep subconscious is manifesting it.
Right. Okay. So from the, let's give an example. I would love it if you gave an example of what is a classic shadow work that is a great definition of shadow work. And then if you could give an example of what people think shadow work is, but it's actually not that.
So a classic example of shadow work would be I'm going to start with a classic reason why to do shadow work. So a classic reason why to do shadow work is, for example, if you are trying to manifest something in your life and you're using all of those amazing manifesting tools that we have in our consciousness and it's not manifesting. Mm-hmm. What shadow work is for is the blocks, the things we don't want. It's to invite them into the healing process as opposed to deny them. Mm-hmm. And what happens when we set our attention on something is we fire up the belief systems in our subconscious as well as the belief systems in our consciousness. So if we set an intention to make more money, for example, money is a good one because we carry our subconscious is made up of ancestral memory from childhood, past life memory, and so money has had a lot of story and belief system around it. And so on a conscious level, you believe in money, you believe in investing in your path and supporting your loved ones and being generous with money. And then you're manifesting it, and all that's coming up for you is more blocks to money. That's because in the shadow consciousness, all of the belief systems around money have also fired up. And they will be things like money is the root of all evil. Mm-hmm. You might not have that belief system on a conscious level at all, right, but you might have inherited that belief system from your ancestral DNA or from your father line or your mother line or your child, yeah, and so forth. And so essentially you've got two things that are in conflict with each other trying to manifest your reality. And so what shadow work is going down into the subconscious and uprooting the belief systems that are no longer of service to you. And what is so amazing about it is when you do this, not straight away, because the shadow is a bit like the soil. So everything happens it's what we grow out of. So everything kind of happens at the pace of Mother Earth with shadow work. But 3 months, 6 months, a year later, you do the work and then your reality's changed and you're like, I don't even know how that happened. But the roots that were creating the old reality have gone. And so that's why it's so powerful. That is shadow work. Mm-hmm. There are from my experience, there are kind of two main ways to work with shadow. 3. There is the plant medicine way. There is the way of ceremony. And then there's a way that is what my guides call temple alchemy, which is kind of the equivalent of shadow surgery. And
like so an energy approach.
Yeah, so the energy approach, the ceremonial approach, or the plant medicine approach. Although for me, I would argue that you probably shouldn't mix plant medicines and shadow work until you already know how to do the other two. And so those are the 3 main ways to work with shadow. What a lot of people think shadow work is, and I would say this actually the irony of it is it belongs to the shadow that's in our collective consciousness, right, about suppression of the feminine and the suppression of paganism and the burning of the witches. But they think shadow work is working with dark and working on the opposite of light work and working with the, you know, crazy spirits. And so it's nothing to do with that. It's about working with what you cannot see. And actually, for me, what the most beautiful thing about shadow work is that it took me years to realize of doing for myself. But our shadow holds everything that is beyond our judgment. So that's why it's so perfect for this topic of 0-point judgment.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, it also holds our potential. It doesn't just hold our trauma and our blocks. It holds the things that are beyond the limitations of our consciousness as well. The gifts we haven't integrated, the beliefs that we have pushed, the beliefs in ourselves that we have pushed away, the source energy that we have pushed away. And so it's really, really important work at this time.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion.
It's beautiful. And, you know, because there is such a misnomer with shadow work and what it is and what it isn't, it, you know, it's one of those things where we almost need to change the word for it, because it throws people off. I think I would imagine that you run into that all the time, because that is a major part of what you do. So if you write on your website, I do shadow work, then it might make people go, oh, I don't want to do that. Right.
I, you know, for a long time, I felt like that would happen. And then what my guides just kept saying is like, no, the time of it is coming. The time of it is coming. And one of the things that I've seen a massive turnaround this year is suddenly people are like, I really want to do shadow work.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that they're like, you know, the forces of change that have happened has meant that people are like, no, I want to turn inwards and I want to, you know, do the deep and dirty work on my own trauma and shadow and things like that. And so it's suddenly changed in the consciousness. And my guides, the guides that I mentioned, the tribe of the Ka, that are the guardians of the great mystery, they have this way of always kind of, because they're on the great mystery, of always being in a way one step ahead of what is happening. And so they say this stuff and I'm like, really, you want me to put shadow all over my website?
Right. Yeah.
Like, are you serious?
Yeah.
And then they're right about it, and suddenly it's like got a different meaning and stuff like that. And so now I don't have any issue with that word, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. I'm so glad I asked that question. That was a very interesting response. That's very cool. Okay, good. Okay, well then what I want to do here quickly is talk a little bit. If people go to starlighttemple.com, what are they going to see?
So they will usually see our upcoming events, and usually, quite often, like I said, there's 4 pillars to Starlight. So there is the pillar of channeling, where we teach people to channel and connect more. There's the pillar of shadow work, and very often, at least once a month, there'll be some kind of free or by donation opportunity to do shadow work at this time. Then there is the pillar of kind of portal and earth work, which is a little bit quiet at the moment. And then there is the pillar of the return of the ceremonies and kind of the return of the lost temple ceremonies. And like I said, we do a lot of free by donation events, a lot of online courses for people that want to go deeper. And in non time of stillness that we're in, we also take people on kind of sacred site light and earth work journeys. And so Starlight is a mixture of all of those things.
That's beautiful. Wonderful. Okay. Well, and then of course, we're doing the same sort of thing with the Higher Self Expo. It is a free event that will be broadcast live on Facebook and YouTube, just like this little interview is right now. And if you would like to learn more about that, then you can register for it at the higherselfexpo.com. You'll be added to a mailing list, and you'll get information about all 11 speakers and all future events. So I'm super excited about that. And then because it is a free event, we do love support. And so there will be a way for you to donate US dollars or money so that we can pay for really modest expenses for doing this. This is really all about promoting the individual light workers and giving everybody an opportunity to learn amazing things and to get some group healings in many cases. And in addition to that, there was something else I was going to say. Oh, right. And the other way that you can support is you can promote the event and tell people about it, let people know so that they can attend, and we can keep increasing our audience size and our reach so that we can help more and more people. So, all right. Well, Kahreela, it was such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for joining us today and for being a big part of the Higher Self Expo on January 23rd.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited about it. It's going to be amazing.
Yay. All right. Well, we'll see you in about 2 weeks.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.